Hey everybody, so doing another vlog. Um, I just decided this was something I wanted to do because I've had sort of this hiatus where my my nose itches. I think it's because of some of the medications, but it just doesn't stop. But anyways, with my leg being the way it is, it's sort of on and off. Got a little bit of an issue with cellulitis right now, but it's being taken care of and we're doing okay. But I just had to sort of back off of everything with filming it all. But I'm starting to get back into doing that. 2 weekends ago on Saturday, I went with Josh and Sharon and the family to Historic Preservation Trust of Lebanon County. They have their annual opening of their 4 buildings, so I took them there. That was a really cool experience. On the Thursday before that, I had done the lecture for the power of preservation, or the importance of preservation, with the Historic Preservation Trust of Lebanon County, and it had been a really cool event. Went really well, and I'm definitely finding and enjoying more and more doing these lectures and being part of these organizations and doing these types of events is a really cool event. So one of the cool things is getting to do these lectures. I have 2 lectures that are already done, that Josh and Sharon filmed, and then we got to do Pearl Harbor, which was done last December 7th for the Daughters of the American Revolution Lebanon chapter. And then, of course, this Historic Preservation Trust lecture on the power of preservation. So we'll wind up doing that at some point. Then we've got to try to get, in the next month or so, I want to try to get the Daniel R. Fisher Myerstown in a Time of War scripted and done, so we can actually benefit Preservation Trust of Lebanon County Historical Society, and Isaac Meyer Homestead with that DVD. And that would be something that will be made available, and 100% of the proceeds go to them. But it was a cool event going to those 4 places to get to show them. I also stopped by one of the things that we've done a video on. There's a really cool memorial in Evergreen Cemetery in Ebenezer, Pennsylvania. It's an Asian memorial for 2 people that were born in China and have since passed, of course. But it's just a beautiful memorial, like just stunning. We've done a couple videos of that already, short form, long form, just checking it out and just enjoying it for the amazing place that it is, and just what that all symbolizes and all of that. But we went to the 4 places. It started out at Lights Fort. I've done a number of videos on that, and I was sort of going to do the tour, if you will, for them, just so it'd be a little quicker and we could make all 4 places. And so I started giving this tour, starting at the outside, and a lady showed up, then another couple people showed up, then another couple. It was probably like 15 to 20 people or something like that. So I just sort of, Sharon and Josh laughed and the kids laughed. I just sort of went with it and gave the history of the place and some of the legends that are around it and things like that. And we went inside, and then that's where the tour guides were. So they gave them, their bit, and then went down into the basement where the spring is. And a number of people had questions, and I tried to answer those and do that. So it was weird because I sort of became the tour guide of Lights Fort there for a little bit, and that was fun. So we went over to the Chestnut Street Log House, checked that out. Jerry was there, who's absolutely awesome. And the lady that was there as well at the garden gave a lot of really cool information to the kids and stuff like that. And because Josh and Sharon's kids are very interested in history and all that kind of stuff. So that was a really neat event. And then we did the cabin, and then we went by Salem Old Salem Lutheran Church, which is one of the first places that the Declaration of Independence was read. So we were able to go by that, and then we went by, they also have a second building there for Old Salem we visited both. for the historic hometown country churches, I believe, are hometown historic churches. That's also on the National Registry of Historic Places. Beautiful, stunning building. And then going down a little further, we were able to go by both the railroad stations that are both on the National Registry of Historic Places, the Coleman, Cornwall, and Lebanon Railroad Station that Strickler Insurance now owns and operates, and then the old Reading Railroad Station. I think it's Reading, Pennsylvania, Reading, Philadelphia Station. Another really neat station. That one would be the Lebanon and Tremont line would go off of that north. So we were able to go by both of them and a couple of other iconic, really neat churches that are right there in that 8th Street and Lehman region. Then we went by the Union Canal offices, which is a beautiful yellow house that's on, I believe, maple. And then went by Coleman Memorial Park, talked a little bit about that with them. And then we went out to Lindley Murray Schoolhouse. They really enjoyed that. We're looking forward to that. Letting them borrow my book on the one-room schoolhouses of Lebanon County, which is such a great book that Lebanon County Historical Society put out, just to see these unique bits of history. And you got to see what Lindley Murray is in 1850s, went to, I think, closed in 1946, but one-room schoolhouse, and you got to see how that would have been set up between the 1850s to 1880s. And then lastly, we went to the beautiful Monroe Valley and the Monroe Valley Chapel, which they absolutely loved. And James Logan was there and gave a great talk about Monroe Valley Chapel and just the history of it and everything. He's a gentleman, he and his father wrote the book that we've been using to talk about the Cold Springs Resort. It's my mind went blind for a second, but they wrote that awesome book with the help of Ralph Watts' daughter, Brandy Martin, who knows so much about Cold Springs. And it was just a really cool conversation with him, talking about the book and Cold Springs, and talking about, everything there. We have a video I got to put together where we returned to Cold Springs, and it's actually probably 8 months ago now that I returned after Missy took us there. And really, really neat time. And then we went through the Monroe Valley down past where the Highland Coups were, which they ignored us again. I was sad. I wish I had filmed when we had gone through there. I took them to the old silver mine that we filmed at, the entrance there, the Waterville Bridge, and then to the Inwood Iron Bridge. And then as we went by this one farm that's there, all these, they call them Highland Coups, even though they're cows, but it's just got the Scottish thing. And they all came running. I felt like a cow, donkey, sheep, and goat, and small miniature horse whisperer. And they all just came over and just like, it was a cool event for the kids, like a fun moment. But they've ignored me since. But so we went down through there, and then I took them by the old log cabin where I grew up, so they could see that, tell them the stories. And then we stopped by St. Joseph Springs, where the murder of Joseph Raber happened with the Blue-Eyed Six. So it was a really, really fun day with them. I didn't film anything. I should have done some shorts at least, but I just didn't. That was the first time I got out. And then on Sunday, as you guys have seen the videos, Ralph and I went on another adventure, fun with Ralph and John at Bloomsburg, walking the main street, and a lot of shorts. Those are all up now, and the 2 videos. It was a really neat experience. I will answer the one question. Somebody apparently thought it was a shame that we didn't go visit the cat cafe, which, to our credit, we actually walked right by it. It's on film. There was a guy throwing a ball to this big bushy-tailed cat. All I saw was cats in bloom, which I assume was just like a cat shelter, and they had like 1,500 adoptions and all that. And it was like, I didn't realize they actually had a cafe in there, which my leg was tiring out. I wanted to do the Civil War Monument and then just sort of finish off the last bit of town. And my diabetes was getting to me. My blood sugar gets low sometimes, so I had to stop and get a sody pop to sort of get that up again, but it was just still really, really low, and I just was done for the day. Because we actually went over to Bloomsburg University, and I think it's Culver Hall is like the administrative building with the clock tower and stunning campus. But I just didn't feel like getting out. There was a couple historic markers. I just didn't feel like getting out at that stage because I only have so much stamina to do that type of stuff, and I have to know my limits. But I'm hoping here I'll announce a new series. I love nature series where it's like calm attainment, where you just film, and I'll do this with my camera, my big camera, a location out in nature. I'd wanted to go out to Levitt's Park. They have a small pond there, which is beautiful. And I want to do the fountain for like 30 minutes and then loop it. Sort of, it's like stuff that makes you calm, helps you to nap, sleep, relax. You hear the sound of the birds, you hear the sound of the water. They also have a cool bridge that's right there that goes over the creek. The sound of flowing water. I use those things like raining, thunderstorms even, chimes I love. And just listening to that helps my mind to calm down because I'm a little bit of an insomniac and I have trouble sleeping because my mind just doesn't quiet. And so I'm going to do some of those videos and go to different places like, probably Memorial Lake. There are several others like Union Canal, Tunnel Park. I'll probably do one of the canal tunnel and just filming locales right around here where I think, maybe the Swatara Creek, Susquehanna River at Fort Hunter, things like that will give a nice video. I also want to get started. You'll see a new playlist that pops up, which will be the Lebanon PA 250. So I'm going to make a video that's specifically just for them that has their logo ahead of it and doesn't have any hometown historian stuff. And instead of my information, like, liking the channel and the memory of Kate and that type of stuff, I want to have something taken care of there that it's all their information. And then it gets downloaded to their Facebook page, gets downloaded to their web page, that type of stuff. And we go from there. Just like I want to eventually start doing something for Visit Lebanon Valley, some of these same videos. But we're going to be starting, I think I'm going to do the introduction video, which I'll probably do out, even though it's not in Lebanon County. The Hanover Resolves, I might talk about them. And that was sort of the thing that started everything with the idea of airing of grievances and Declaration of Independence. That awesome line of, we're going to trust our cause to heaven and our rifles. And anywho, then the very first video will be at Old Salem Lutheran Church. These will be very scripted. I'll do one for my channel that has my channel stuff on it, and then one for them, just to sort of help raise awareness and hit on all these different historical sites through the ages that make the Lebanon Valley what it is today. And it's our shared history. So those are two new series that'll be starting up, and they have a purpose for that. And so I'm hoping to get that stuff going out doing there. Also, like I've talked about, I'm going to get that D2 cleaner, environmental cleaner. I'm going to do my grandparents' cemetery stone, Elmer and Helen Walborn, my mom's parents. I'm going to go do their grave first, and that's a relatively easy stone, but it needs some cleaning. And then I got to get the permission for the Fisher family. So when we do Myerstown in a time of war coming up, because I don't think I'm going to be able to do the walks this year. It's just, my leg is just what it is. I will do a Halloween one where we'll do a thing on the Halloween stories again, and then we'll do Victorian Christmas, where I'll talk about the Victorian traditions and how Christmas at that time changed because of what Queen Victoria and Prince, I believe it was Albert, Maybe it's not Albert. Whatever her husband's name was. Name's alluding. I might be completely correct too, but anyways, let me just quick check here, because I should check and see what that is to make sure I have it correct. I'm gonna do it while I have my phone here with me. Make sure I'm doing it right. Alright. Queen Victoria and Prince. Yeah, it was Albert. Alright, so I was correct. I'll make sure that I'm right on those things. But anyways, that around that period of time when they started doing, because they tried to present themselves as a normal everyday family, they had a lot of traditions. A bunch of them came from Prince Albert because he was from that Germania region, so he brought a bunch of those things, I think, from Saxonburg, and they were very important traditions, partially folklore, partially, even to a degree, pagan tradition, but a lot of those traditions got adopted by the church, like the Christmas tree and things of that nature. Just like a lot of the Easter festivities were actually for that spring solstice coming up. It was a lot of pagan traditions that got adopted as well by the church, and that was partially when I believe it was Constantine, it was Constantinople, where he became a Christian, and he sort of saw the rising tensions between the pagan religions and Christianity, and he felt if you combine these, maybe that'll keep that from happening. And it was a wise move on his part. So sort of traditions that came together. It's a pretty cool bit of history. But so we'll be getting out, doing some filming. Maybe I'll get up to Schuylkill Haven again to start doing some of those. I'd like to do a video on the Port Clinton Peanut Shop. Also, there's a really cool cemetery up there that I'd like to visit. There also supposedly is a railroad museum. So some of these things will be coming up. I still got a number of these videos I need to get out that I already have filmed. The two first of the lecture series I need to get out. I just need to edit them on my laptop, start getting myself used to doing that, because I am not technologically savvy. So I'm sort of scared of that kind of stuff, and it just takes me a while to acclimate. But the end of this, I want to do some mail time. This is a card from Jay. It says, "Hop into gear. Easter is here. Wishing you an Easter adventure with fun and happiness that never ends." And once again, thank you, Jay, for the gift that you sent with that. I really like this card right here. And it says, "The most beautiful stones have been polished to brilliance by life's strongest storms. You'll get through this and you'll come out even stronger than you were before." I appreciate, once again, the gift, but also your note. It's a double-edged sword. You want to see the videos, but yet, when I hurt myself to making these videos, we're getting back to where we need to be, thankfully, and I'll start getting the videos out. The leg is doing a lot better. It's just, it has limitations, and it just, I'm trying some new stuff to treat the cellulitis, because what happens is the leg swells, and then you get almost these fractures in the skin. So then that allows the surface bacteria to get in, and because I'm so apt to get cellulitis, it automatically turns that way, and it just gets really, really uncomfortable. And trying to wear the boot right now doesn't work because it tightens around that area, and it just really uncomfortable. So Ralph and I have several adventures coming forward. Josh and Sharon and their kids are talking about it might be another family going out to Gettysburg and doing some adventures as well. So we're going to have quite a few adventures. I would like, if I can finally get myself together, I'd like to do that video on the Molly Maguires. I need to do a bunch of research, read up on it, so I really know my stuff. We'll get together with Laura Klotz from is it Master Quest? I'm sorry, Laura. I get a little can't remember, but she does for all the historic markers. She does such a phenomenal. She has the blog and she does a thing on. Oh my gosh, I am sorry, Laura. I get old and decrepit. My mind's not working. She has on this one listening thing. She actually reads out like the from the very beginning of her channel or for her vlog blog. Wow. But anyway, she's going to be part of that. There's potentially somebody else as well that's from up in that area, because part of it will be up in Jim Thorpe, or what was originally Monk Chunk, because that's where some of the last guys got hung. Also, there's some in Pottsville, because at the Schuylkill County prisons where a number of them got hung as well. And it's a really unique story. The Molly Maguire time period was actually about 20-30 years, but this particular one, which they made a movie about, these 7 or so guys really got railroaded, and it was brutal. The system was completely against them. This was where the rich basically bought everything, and the only thing the government provided was the venue for them to be in prison and for their mock trial to take place. But everybody was bought. There's a one story that I talk about. There's a guy that owns an Irish pub, and the judge from one of these things is right along the way, one of the walkways and driveways for the there's a cemetery in Pottsville. We visited several. We visited Gothic Cathedral. Anyways, there he spits on the grave when he walks down there, because the judge, he was corrupt, and you can see the staining from that happening over like 15-20 years. So there's still a lot of anger in the Irish community towards what happened, because it was, the guys get railroaded. But that I'd like to do. I'd like to also potentially, I'd like to film with Cheryl and Chris from Sun Plus One at some point here, get together with them up in the Allentown region to do that, and finally meet them in person and film with them. And a number of other people as well. Colleen, I'd love to, finally got to get together with Angela Lewis. She has a small channel that they had started last year, and I hope they get that going again. But a lot of fun. We did the hike out to the Bordner cabin, and actually succeeded in doing it. I paid for it, but it was a lot of fun to go out there and see that. So there's a bunch of different things that are coming up that we'll wind out doing. We've got the Cherry Festival at the Alexander Schaefer Farm that's coming up right around June 20th, so that'll be coming up. I want to do another drive-through at the Bordner cabin on the Bear Hole Trail, and maybe stop and look for some fossils and stuff like that. That'll be fun. And then you get the World War II encampment. I'd like to potentially make it back to Fort Loudon this year. I don't know. There's a slight chance, depending on what happens with Adirondack Mountains, a trip with Ralph and his friend Donnie, that we would wind up potentially going on beginning of June. That one's probably not going to happen, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle it or not, because the Bloomsburg thing sort of was a lot. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, that's where we're at. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Thank you once again for supporting the channel, for supporting me, because it really does mean the world. Like, there are so many of you that have been so kind and so generous. And channels don't normally work like this. Normally you have a situation where somebody's not consistent with the content like I have been, just because of health issues and things like that. People leave the channel, and you guys haven't done it. You've been really, really very, very generous, very loyal, and that's something you just don't forget. So I can't say thank you enough. Thank you to everybody that's been a part of this journey and this adventure, and as it continues. So we got some cool stuff coming up. We'll see how much of it I'm able to do. I'd like to make another trip up to Shamokin as well. At some point to Shenandoah. I'd like to make a trip up to Centralia as well, because I'd like to do a then and now, long form and short forms, just to see what a vibrant town it used to be, and what a shame it is what happened. And Shenandoah is one of those. I use them as a prime example of a stunning and beautiful town that just business leaving, the coal industry going defunct, and how a town can just, you know, it used to be known as the city of churches, and now there's nothing to really, not a whole lot to represent other than St. Casimir's, St. Michael's, and what's left of St. Stanislaus and St. John's Lutheran Church. And it's just sort of, it's such a shame. It really is. It just held such a significant cultural perspective of being known as Little Lithuania. I talked about that in the conversation about the power of preservation, the what ifs, and why we preserve, why we're driven to preserve. Is because we see things like that happen, and it's just really, really sad. All that history, all those memories, gone, you know. And some of these last churches that are no longer active, they've got maybe 15, 20 years left, and then they'll be torn down. And it just sort of, how do you handle that? You look at that and how sad it makes you see that kind of stuff. So, but anyways, that's where we're at. And as always, I want to say thank you, Jay, so very, very much. There'll be more videos. I want to try to start getting a couple more country roads take me home. There's a couple areas that I want to hit to do some cool adventures there. Maybe go on some just weird, unique drives. Talk about what history we know and what we don't, and so on. But as always, I want to say thank you for coming along on this journey and these adventures. And as always, we'll see you all about town.